Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And this morning, it's morning for me. I wanted to talk about the my sobriety program, my recovery program, I should say, because it's really been encompassing my stroke recovery as well. How this recovery program is a unity of philosophy and religion. And this is what the topic was this morning in my meeting, and I was just diving a bit deeper into it, like how does that apply to my program, my personal program? Um, when I first started out with this sobriety, 8.5 years ago, it's over 8.5 now. I love to just count. Who's counting, right? But I, I wanted to have some sort of religious um, faith in something, but I didn't know how. Like, I wanted to pray, but I didn't know how. I wanted to be able to not feel alone, but I didn't know how. And my sobriety program introduced me to this idea that I can do it any way that I want to do it, um, as long as it keeps me sober. And the longer I've been in the program, the more that I'm really fascinated, especially with all the stuff that happens in the world that that really centers around religion and the intolerance of it, between religions of different people. Yet I can go into into a sobriety meeting and have people talk about their own higher power and their own belief system and their faith. And nobody's judged. And the reason why is because we're all there for the single purpose of staying sober. And that's physically sober and mentally and emotionally and spiritually sober as well. So it's really neat how when I got into the program, I was told that I could act as if. I mean, where else can you go where you can talk about religion, you can act as if, quote unquote, and yet nobody judges you. People actually encourage you to act as if. They're not encouraging you to believe what they believe, um, as long as you are working towards that common purpose. And the reading this morning said that, believed that the sobriety program is a philosophy. Um, and I thought, well, it's actually a combination of the two, you know? It is, and I think the reading mentioned that. I didn't think of that on my own. Um, but it's fascinating the more I thought about it, how these two things work together to keep me balanced. Again, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually balanced. So, one of the things that somebody said, I think maybe it was in the reading or something they read or something, but somebody said how we all have a spark left over from the divine. We all have a spark left over from the divine. And I thought that was pretty. That was a pretty expression. And we work the program in order to control how brightly that burns. Um, that really touched me because I have to work my program every day in order to keep that burning. And I try to keep it burning as bright as possible. Um, my program is a way of life, and I have to keep feeding that energy source to that flame in order to keep it burning. Um, my program is way more than just keeping me from picking up a drink. It keeps the brighter that that flame is burning, the less I have thoughts about alcohol, and the less I have thoughts about all of that shit that my mind obsesses about. I'm free from all obsessions of my thinker if I keep feeding fuel to that fire. Um, so the the definition of philosophy is, I feel like I have morning voice. Sorry. I totally have morning voice. Um, the definition of philosophy is the study, I'm summarizing, is the study of fundamental topics like our existence, um, our reason, um, for, I guess, existing. Same thing, right? Um, fundamental topics like existence, reason, knowledge, value, and mind. That's what I wrote down. Um, philosophy is rational thinking and critical inquiries, and it tells us to reflect on our own methods and assumptions. And so when I read this, I'm like, yeah, my sobriety program, my recovery program is that. I'm constantly reflecting on my own methods of staying sober, sober in every aspect. And I'm constantly reviewing my assumptions. I had assumptions before I got sober that were, again, that I've been talking about it for 2 days now, that voice inside my head that lies to me. Those were the assumptions in my life. And everything that I did, my behavior, my actions were based on those assumptions. Isn't that neat? Neat in a bad way, that what I was doing in my life was based on the assumptions that that inner voice was lying to me about. And no wonder I just kept spiraling downward. Today, after removing the drink and learning how to tame my inner voice and stand up to my inner voice and say, no, you're lying to me. No, I'm not a terrible person. No, I'm human and I get to make mistakes. It's fine. As long as I recognize what they are, I clean my side of the street. Um, I can, I can, I don't want to say talk back to that inner voice, but respond to the inner voice. The best thing that I can do, my philosophy, my recovery program, all of these fundamental topics that my recovery program helps me with start with a pause. It requires me to be thoughtful. And that, I think, is where that critical inquiry and rationale is, where I'm not just reacting based on my assumptions. I am continuously questioning my assumptions um, in order to continue to become a better human being among human beings. So I agree that this recovery program is a philosophy, but I can't remove the religious side. Like, I talk all the time about spirituality and religion, and you lifetime listeners know that I have been more and more leaning into talking about religion, and it's because my sobriety program introduced me to the idea that I can believe whatever I want. I can act as if. And nobody ever gave me permission to do that. I always thought I had to believe what you believed. And my program tells me that I don't have to. I can believe in whatever I want to believe in as long as it keeps me sober. And I need to have that little spark in order to energize my program. I have to have that little spark to energize my spirituality. So I do believe that religion and spirituality are very different because my recovery program started, I don't know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I felt more able to grow my spirituality as opposed to my religion. Um, but when I think about that idea that we're all of us have a spark left over from the divine, when I think about that, it is the egg that came first. um, because that was giving me the courage to lean into spirituality, to like get quiet and really think about it and not be afraid of what other people think about me. I'm not the guy, you guys remember when I was talking about the guy in the Thai restaurant at the gas station who decided he was going to meditate right in the middle of the restaurant gas station restaurant, and he like closed his eyes and was sitting all awkward in this chair. It was really uncomfortable to be sitting there. Um, I'm not doing that, but I am able to get quiet and really do some critical thinking before I react to somebody. And as you all know, I recently reacted to somebody. And what my book that I'm reading, The Untethered Truth, no, The Untethered Soul, I keep getting that wrong. The Untethered Soul, which is our Reads and Recovery book for this month. And I realize I haven't done a book review of it, but I feel like I'm kind of doing a book review every day because I'm thinking a lot about this idea that when we have negative thinking, it's it's so much easier to let it go initially than it is if we react on it and then try to let it go. That negative thinking just grows exponentially when we react to it and we start involving other people in our thought process. Because if I have something negative that I'm feeling and I pause and I do some critical thinking and reasoning, and I'm leaning on the steps of my program, the principles of my program, and then I respond later, I don't have any resentments. I may have a resentment or two, but but it's easier to address it than it is if I just react immediately to something that started out as a negative thought, and then it became, I involved another person into my mind. And now there's so much more I have to let go of, and it's harder, it's more difficult. But over the past week, I've been working on that. Um, and it's a learning opportunity for me that no matter how heightened I get in aggravation, I don't have to respond. And I haven't really had a situation where I reacted to somebody when I was in heightened emotion and it turned out well. I don't recall of any of that happening. It's always, other than some stuff like when my kids were little and protecting them from things that I felt were unsafe. Those are instances where I have to react. Um, but in other ways, I have never actually had good results from reacting to negative thinking, where my behavior was driven by the negative thinking. So there is a unity of religion and philosophy in my recovery program, and they're both valid resources for me to lean on to. They're interwoven in my pursuit of understanding my deepest struggles. In my program, they borrow from each other. Wherever I have a gap in um, dictating how I should behave, I lean on either one or the other. I lean on critical thinking, and reason, or I lean on faith. If I don't have the answer and I can't think it through, what do? I call my sponsor or talk about it in one of my meetings. Um, but a lot of times when I'm talking about something I'm struggling with, like with my sponsor or with somebody else, there's a lot of trust and faith that I end up depending on when I respond to whatever's going on in my life. And that's because I don't have all the answers, right? If I'm leaning on my philosophies, my principles and all that stuff, like I'm just not going to always have the answer. I'm not going to always know what's going to happen, what can happen if I behave this way or that way. And so sometimes I just have to rely on my faith, you know, close my eyes, take my hands off the wheel, and just say, I hope this ends well, you know? I do that a lot, but it's a lot less energy to just take my hands off the wheel and close my eyes and say, I hope this ends well, than to sometimes try to pull my car to the right when it needs to go to the left. I did that wrong in person. Pull my car to the right when it needs to go to the left. I'm fighting, I'm fighting where life is pulling me. So I I am relying on both of those. They're interwoven with each other, and I need them both in order to stay sober physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So I'm so grateful that I can do whatever I want. and um, I don't have to worry about what anybody thinks. And I do because um, I have a history of hanging out with um, people in my life that have an opinion about religion, and I I don't talk about it. Like in my regular life, I don't talk about it. I only talk about it on here, which is funny. Yes, I'm talking about it to more people than if I talked about it in life. But when I talk about it on here, um, I don't have to see what you're thinking. I don't have to see like if you're judging me. I don't have to see that, you know? Um, that's another reason why it's really easy for me to speak the truth on here, because I don't see your reaction. And that helps me to really talk about what's going on inside. And and I do that for a reason, and that's in case anybody else is feeling the same way. They don't feel alone. Um, it's a really lonely world if you let it be. And I'm I'm trying to balance everything in my life. And I know it's hard. Like if you feel like it's hard to balance what other people think with what you want to do, what you believe, what your faith is, what your actions are, you know, if people are judging you, if you feel like it's hard, you're not alone. It is hard. It's hard for me too. But I just keep doing it, you know? I just, because what do I have to lose, really? I already was at the very edge of my life, where my body was quite literally shutting down because I was killing it. I was poisoning it with alcohol. Um, and then having a stroke. Once again, I was like at the edge. And it has helped me see that it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I continue to be honest and speak the truth that's happening inside of me, in order to continue to live free from obsessions. And that's obsession with drinking and my obsessed mind to think that somebody's mad at me, or you know, I did something wrong and all of that stuff. Like I have to let it go. It's not my problem. If somebody's mad at me, it's not my problem. Um, as long as I feel like I have addressed it, you know, I have cleaned my side of the street and made amends where I feel it was appropriate, then the rest is I can't control it. So I just have to move on, move forward. And I can either move forward with it or I can move forward from it. And what I'm trying to do is move forward from it instead of carrying it with me in my pocket and keep pulling it out and looking at it, because that's not healthy for me. You know, yesterday, I all day long, actually, it started the day before yesterday. I started having like heart palpitations, and it's the same feeling that I used to have when I was drinking. It's a panic attack, is what it is. And I've become so familiar with what that feeling is that I'm able to say, that's a panic attack. Take a deep breath. And so that's that inner voice. that's a little bit of training that we've done together. So instead of her saying, "Oh my God, you're having a panic attack, there must be something very wrong and you're going to die." That's what she used to say when I was drinking. Today, she says, when my heart does that palpitation thing, my inner voice says, "You're having a panic attack. Take a deep breath." And I take a deep breath and I exhale audibly, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. But yesterday it happened all day long. It started the evening before that, and I believe it's because everybody in my house has the flu, and I'm freaked out that I'm going to get the flu. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's correlated with um, the issue that I was talking about a couple days ago. Um, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm pretty sure it's because everybody in my house has the flu, and I'm afraid I'm going to get it. But I've been really careful about, I walk around with wipes on my hands to open doorknobs and stuff like that, and not touching my face. And so far, I'm in the clear, but everybody sounds terrible. Ugh. It's like I sit in my bedroom and I have the door shut and I can hear everybody hacking. And I'm like, ugh. So I just, every time I go downstairs or anything, I wipe everything down. So by everybody, I mean my daughter and my husband are both very sick. So yeah, that's what I have for you today on the pretzel that is philosophy and religion and how it works for me in my recovery program. So thanks for listening today, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.